how far ahead does Oda plan his story? Well, by looking at individual storylines, we can trace back to the start of when Oda initially began planting the seeds for said storylines. So what has been happening in the recent story? The Straw Hats teamed up with Law to take down Doflamingo. After this, the story transitioned to Zou, where we meet the Mink tribe, where we are given a lot of exposition about the history of the world, and where the story sets up for future conflicts with the Yonkou. So when did Oda start planting the seeds for these storylines? Well, let's take a look all the way back at the Sabaody archipelago, when Law is introduced. To begin with, we can see that Oda at least had the Law and Doflamingo conflict planned out, just by looking at the similarities between their symbols. Now on top of this, Oda had also likely planned out even beyond that to the next phase of his story, because Oda made sure to give Law a mink crew member. Why give Law a mink? Why not any of the other supernovas? Simple. By giving Law a mink, Oda made sure to plant a natural transition for the story to progress from Dressrosa to Zou. We can even see that the mink race itself was introduced at this time. So all the way back at Sabaody, Oda was already thinking 5 years ahead to the future storylines of Dressrosa and Zou. At the very least, he knew that he should plant the seeds for the Law vs Doflamingo storyline, and make sure to set up some sort of segue to get the story from the Doflamingo storyline to the Zou storyline. That segue was Bepo. The simple thought process Oda had was that after defeating Doflamingo, he needs to get the Straw Hats to the land of the minks. Why would they go to the land of the minks if Law's crew was waiting there? Why would Law's crew be waiting there? Well, Oda realized it all makes sense if he gives Law a mink on his crew from the start. If you think about it, Bepo really has served no other purpose in the story other than being a reason for the protagonist to go to Zou. He hasn't had much of an in-story impact or role, but that's because Oda created him to be a necessary link in the plot chain. So by giving Law a mink crewmate in chapter 498, Oda planted an organic reason for the story to end up in Zou all this time later in chapter 802.